that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
A promise kept for the rest of her life. On her 21st birthday, our future Queen addressed the Commonwealth, a custom she'd become very familiar with. But Princess Elizabeth wasn't always destined for the throne. It was expected that she'd live a relatively quiet life, out of the spotlight. But all that changed when her uncle abdicated to marry an American divorcee. Her father was now king. 11-year-old Elizabeth was his heir. Princess Elizabeth spent most of World War II at Windsor Castle with her sister Princess Margaret to escape the bombing in London. It was from here she made her first public broadcast to the children of the Commonwealth, many of them also living away from home.
We know, every one of us, that in the end all will be well, for God will care for us and give us victory and peace. And when peace comes, remember, it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place.
Elizabeth was the first female member of the royal family to serve in the armed forces. She trained as a mechanic, and by the end of the war, she'd been promoted to the equivalent of captain. Our future Queen joined her family and Prime Minister Winston Churchill on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, waving to a crowd of thousands. She'd secretly joined the masses that night, pulling her cap over her eyes to avoid recognition.
I remember we were terrified of being recognised, so I pulled my uniform cap well down over my eyes.
Princess Elizabeth met Prince Philip at Britannia Royal Naval College, Dartmouth, shortly before the war. The dashing young cadet was tasked with looking after the young princess, and, in true British fashion, their love story began with a game of croquet. They waited until after the war to marry. A modest event compared to the splendour of more recent royal weddings. Princess Elizabeth collected clothing coupons for her dress, like any other young bride in post-war Britain. Prince Charles, a future king, was born in 1948. Princess Anne followed soon after. The young family moved to Malta, and Prince Philip continued his naval career in the Mediterranean fleet. A life of normality before navigating a life of duty. In 1952, the king was unwell. Forced to cancel his tour of the Commonwealth, his daughter and her husband took his place. They flew to Kenya and stayed at a safari lodge called Treetops. Princess Elizabeth climbed up as a princess. The following morning, she climbed down as a queen.
To the stunned heart of London and to the whole Commonwealth came the tragic news from Sandringham of the passing of a beloved sovereign.
King George VI had died in his sleep. He'd been living with lung cancer for some time. Her Majesty flew back to London and began a life of service to her country and to the Commonwealth. The Queen agreed to have her coronation televised. Millions watched in Britain and around the world, crowded around tiny television sets with their friends and neighbours. The heir and the spare were joined by two siblings, Andrew and Edward. The first children since the reign of Queen Victoria, to be born to a serving sovereign. A private family life of Balmoral barbecues was balanced with public duties. She became the first royal to officially visit Germany since the Allies won the World Wars. Another victory came at the 1966 Football World Cup, one of the most celebrated events in British sport. Her Majesty presented the trophy to England's captain, Bobby Moore. Far away from London, in the Welsh mining village of Aberfan, a colliery slag tip hurtled down a hill and engulfed a school. 116 children died. The Queen delayed visiting for over a week, an action it is said that she'd come to regret. Her Majesty visited the school 4 more times during her reign and opened their new primary school in 2012. A new decade, and Her Majesty scrapped centuries of royal tradition to greet crowds in person with her family, a tradition now known as a royal walkabout, a chance to personally meet the ordinary people they serve. During her Silver Jubilee celebrations, marking 25 years on the throne, she repeated her pledge to devote her life to service and said she did not regret nor retract one word of it. And serve she did. The Queen spent much of her time supporting charities. She was patron or president of more than 500 organisations. But horses were one of her favourite passions. The Queen had ridden since childhood and had never quite hung up her spurs. She owned several top-class thoroughbreds, which won more than 70 times at Ascot. Her Majesty was never far away from canine companions either. She was given a corgi named Susan for her 18th birthday and had several more throughout her life. Tripping the Colour marked Her Majesty's official birthday. In June 1981, crowds cheered on the procession. Then this happened.
Colonel of the Grenadier Guards.
Half a dozen shots were fired as the Queen rode down the Mall, but she put her riding skills to good use and controlled the startled horse. The shots were blanks. The gunman was sent to prison. Security was heightened the following year after a man broke into Buckingham Palace and entered the Queen's bedroom. It's unknown exactly what they discussed. The Prince of Wales married Lady Diana Spencer in St Paul's Cathedral. A fairy tale wedding for a fairy tale princess who gave up a normal life at just 19 years old. The couple had 2 sons, Princes William and Harry. They were the Queen's 3rd and 4th grandchildren. The marriage didn't last. Charles and Diana separated in 1992. 3 of the Queen's children's marriages broke down that year. Part of Windsor Castle also went up in flames.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. It has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
In August 1997, Diana, Princess of Wales, was killed in a car crash in Paris. Britain mourned. The Queen chose to stay at Balmoral to comfort her bereaved grandsons in private. But parts of the press accused Her Majesty of being out of touch with the public mood. She reluctantly came back to London and for the first time since the end of World War II walked outside the palace gates among her people. On the eve of Diana's funeral, she addressed the nation.
So what I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
A new millennium, a time for celebration. The Queen marked her Golden Jubilee in 2002, half a century on the throne. Perhaps bittersweet, with the passing of her sister, Princess Margaret, and the Queen Mother as well that year. But Her Majesty found strength with her husband Philip by her side. The couple celebrated 60 years of marriage by revisiting the location of their honeymoon, Broadlands in Hampshire. More wedding bells rang in 2011 with the marriage of her grandson, Prince William, to Catherine Middleton. The country rejoiced. The future of the British monarchy was sealed for generations to come. From gold to diamond, the Queen celebrated her Diamond Jubilee and the Olympic Games in London the following summer. She reached another milestone in 2015, becoming Britain's longest reigning monarch.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
Her Majesty was a stable figure in times of crisis.
We were in one of the trains.
She visited terror victims in hospital in the aftermath of the 7/7 London bombings and the attack on the Manchester Arena. When the flames from London's Grenfell Tower claimed the lives of 72 people, the Queen visited a relief centre and met some of the survivors. Prince Harry married the actress Meghan Markle in 2018. The wedding gave cheer to the nation. Meghan became the first mixed-race member of the modernising monarchy. But relations were strained when the Sussexes moved to California. They used a bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey to air racism allegations and accused the firm of not supporting the Duchess through mental health struggles. In March 2020, Britain's way of life ground to a halt with the arrival of a potentially deadly disease, coronavirus. The country was plunged into lockdown and the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh were isolated at Windsor Castle. Her Majesty found a way to bring hope to the nation.
Better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
It was in 2021 that Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, died, just 2 months before his 100th birthday. He'd been married to the Queen for more than 70 years.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
His funeral was scaled back because of pandemic restrictions and because that is how he'd wanted it. The Queen sat alone, the last of her generation at the service. A private, handwritten message from the Queen to Prince Philip was placed on his coffin, believed to be signed Lilibet, the nickname used by her closest family. Her Majesty strived to continue a life of service. Her schedule was packed with public appearances, but there were signs of discomfort. She frequently used a walking stick, and a planned trip to Northern Ireland was cancelled. The Queen spent a night in hospital for what the palace called preliminary investigations, and further fears were sparked when she contracted coronavirus. It was thought the Queen was fully vaccinated and only experienced mild symptoms. She carried on with light duties. For only the third time in her reign, Her Majesty did not attend the state opening of Parliament. Her eldest son, Charles, read the speech on her behalf. The Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years of service to the nation, a milestone achieved by no other monarch in British history. Crowds in their thousands cheered on as the Queen, accompanied by her close family, waved from the Buckingham Palace balcony. 4 generations, 3 future kings. She also assisted with the lighting of the Jubilee beacons and made a cameo appearance alongside Paddington Bear. In a message reflecting on the weekend, the Queen said she remained committed to serving her people to the best of her ability, supported by her family. Her Majesty was the longest reigning monarch in British history, spanning the premierships of 15 Prime Ministers, signing their legislation into law. She kept her promise of a life of service to the nation, defending duty until the end.